Mr. Hitchens, you began your opening statement by decrying the very concept of faith or beliefs in the absence of good, solid, supportable evidence. There was an American psychologist named William James who was a great believer in faith. And he insisted that the wonderful contribution of Christianity was to allow us to make leaps of faith that the laws of science or even mere common sense would decry as completely unsupportable. Unlike a man of faith, can a completely rational mind have the courage to, for instance, take a leap of faith with a total stranger that could lead to friendship, or maybe even with a dire enemy in the hope that that might ultimately lead to peace?
Well, I think you're confusing there the leap of faith with a risk or a chance. The leap of faith, which I attribute to Kierkegaard, not to the varieties of religious experience, is what's necessary to get you across a gap where no evidence exists, and where some of the evidence may be to the contrary. And the problem with that, though I can see the will behind it, is that you can't make it just once and find yourself on the other side. Faith got me across this chasm. Now I'm safe. You have to keep on making it. You have to keep on going to church, sometimes several times a week, to assure yourself you were right to believe it in the first place. And it becomes morbid and ritualistic and irrational. And you're back where you started, on the wrong side of the chasm. Otherwise, this argument, we wouldn't be having this argument if Christianity had an answer to any of this, or any other religion either.
In Christopher's book, he makes the argument, I think I've seen him quoted saying this too, that the absence of evidence is evidence of absence. If you don't see evidence for something, don't believe it. Now, I would suggest that in the empirical domain, in the world of human experience, that is a valid principle. It even applies to miracles. If someone came to me and said, my leg grew 3 feet last week, I would say, let's bring in the doctor with the measuring stick. Let's see if it actually happened. We are in the domain of verification. However, the non sequitur here is the following. There are many questions that are vital to our life because they would affect the way we live that are not in the empirical domain. Let's say I would ask you, is there life after death? Shakespeare says death is the undiscovered country. No one who's gone there has ever come back. And certainly not in a natural. So here's the question. How would you subject that proposition to testing? What possible evidence are you looking for when it is not in the empirical domain? Christopher says automatically reject it out of hand, since there is no evidence, but there is no evidence in a domain where evidence is unavailable. So I would suggest that here we have the dogmatic atheism that, because it doesn't know, refuses to believe. Now, if you ask me, do I know? I would say, no, on this point, I don't know either. The believer shares the agnosticism with the atheist, but the difference is the believer says, even though I don't know, I believe. Remember, the statement of belief is not a statement of knowledge. I know my brother. I wouldn't say I believe in my brother. I know the guy. The reason I say I believe is because I don't know. So what I'm saying is, why is it in any way more irrational for me to take a position on one side of an issue than for him to take the other side of the issue on which there is no empirical evidence on either side? I would submit it's a leap of faith for both of us. The only difference is I am leaping toward God, he's leaping against him.
Yes, last question, please.